Marcus Jackson sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the neatly folded tie in his hands. The morning sun had already crept through the curtains, painting streaks of gold across the hardwood floor. Somewhere in the hallway, little feet pattered, Maya and Miles already awake. His wife, Vanessa, was still asleep beside him, her arm resting across the covers. Her locks spilled over the pillow like a river of soft coils. She looked peaceful, the kind of peace he hadn't felt in months. He exhaled quietly and stood. From the hallway came giggles, then a soft knock on the bedroom door. "Daddy." It was Maya, his 8-year-old daughter with curious eyes and questions for everything. Marcus opened the door and smiled down at her. "Morning, baby girl." Miles peeked from behind his sister's back, clutching a stuffed bear with one ear missing. "Mommy said we can have pancakes today." Vanessa's voice floated in from the bed. "I said if you brush your teeth first." They groaned and ran off in protest. Marcus chuckled and shook his head. It was moments like this, small and perfect, that he lived for. Mornings where the house felt alive, where laughter bounced off the walls, where everything he worked for felt worth it. He walked into the kitchen, where the smell of cinnamon and warm batter soon filled the air. Vanessa, now dressed in leggings and a hoodie, was flipping pancakes with practiced ease. "You're in a good mood," she teased without looking up. "I'm trying," Marcus said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She leaned back into him. "Long week." He didn't answer right away. He was thinking of the voicemail his brother left the night before. Something about a small emergency and needing $5,000 by Monday. Again. "They always want something," Marcus murmured. Vanessa turned in his arms, her expression softening. "Your brothers." He nodded. "And my father called yesterday. Said I've been distant lately. Asked if you've been turning me against him." Vanessa looked down. "This again." "I haven't said a word to them in months, Marcus. You know that." "I know." He reached up to brush her cheek. "It's not you. It's them. They've been doing this since forever. It's just, some days I don't know if they'd call me at all if they didn't need something." She paused. "And that bothers you?" "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It does." Later that afternoon, while the kids were playing in the backyard and Vanessa napped on the couch, Marcus sat alone in his office. The space was clean and quiet, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a sleek black desk where his laptop sat open. He scrolled through his bank transfers for the month. Nearly $12,000 had gone to his family in just 3 weeks. Rent for Jerome. Medical bills for Calvin's second baby mama. A new roof for his father's house. None of them said thank you. None of them ever asked if he was okay. He leaned back in his chair. An idea had been building in his mind for weeks. A dark one. One he hadn't dared say out loud. What if I wasn't rich anymore? Would they still come around? He stood slowly, walked to the window, and watched Maya push Miles on the swing set. The boys' laughter rang out clear and sweet. He didn't want to bring chaos into this life. But he also couldn't keep pretending he didn't see what was happening. He turned from the window and picked up his phone. No more transfers, he texted himself like a command. No more saving them. Let's see who they are when I have nothing left. Marcus didn't sleep well that night. Even with Vanessa curled up beside him and the quiet hum of the ceiling fan above, his mind wouldn't rest. He turned from side to side, staring at the dark, replaying every conversation he'd ever had with his father and brothers. Every guilt trip, every accusation, every request. It always played the same. They ask, he gives. If he hesitates, they blame Vanessa. If he says no, they remind him of who sacrificed for him, as if he owed them a lifetime of repayment. Around 3 a.m., he sat up and grabbed his phone. He opened a new message and stared at the blank screen for a long moment before typing. "Something happened today. I don't want to talk about it yet, but it's serious. Real serious." He hit send. The message went to all three, his father, Calvin, and Jerome. Then he turned his phone off and laid back down. The next morning, Marcus sat in the kitchen alone, nursing a cup of black coffee. The house was quiet. Vanessa had taken the kids to the library. His phone buzzed on the counter, back on now. First, a text from Calvin. "What happened? You good? Talk to me." Then Jerome. "You in trouble? You okay? Should I pull up?" But his father didn't reply. Instead, he called. Marcus hesitated before answering. "Yeah, Dad," he said flatly. There was a pause on the other end before the older man's raspy voice came through. "You said it's serious. What's going on?" Marcus paused, keeping his voice measured. I don't want to talk too much about it over the phone. Let's just say, the company's under investigation. Things might start to look bad. Another pause. You being accused? Not directly, but my name's in it. His father didn't ask if he was okay, or how Vanessa and the kids were taking it. He didn't ask how Marcus felt. All he said was, "So does that mean your accounts might be frozen soon?" Marcus closed his eyes. There it was. No hesitation. They already are. Mr. Jackson sighed heavily. Well, damn. So what you gonna do now? I don't know, Marcus said, keeping his voice low. I might have to move out of this house. Temporarily. Maybe bring the kids over to your place for a little while. Just until I can figure things out. His father didn't respond right away. When he did, the tone had changed. Well, we ain't got room like that, Marcus. You know your brothers are both still here. I'm not asking for space. Just time. I'll take the guest room. The kids can stay in the living room if they have to. His father let out a sound between a grunt and a sigh. We'll talk. Click. Later that evening, Vanessa returned home to find Marcus in the backyard, staring into space. You sure you want to go through with this? She asked, sitting beside him on the wooden bench. He nodded. They're already showing me who they are. I haven't even packed a bag yet. Vanessa stayed quiet for a while before speaking. Do you think this will change things permanently? Marcus turned to her. I'm counting on it. 3 days later, they packed their bags with only the basics, clothes, toiletries, a few books and toys for the kids. Marcus sold the illusion further by parking his SUV at a friend's garage and borrowing an old sedan. The housekeeper had been given a paid break, and the security system was shut off. Everything looked like a man trying to run from scandal. Maya didn't fully understand. Daddy, are we going on vacation? Marcus smiled and touched her cheek. Something like that, sweetheart. Vanessa, ever graceful, reassured the children while carrying her own quiet dread about moving back into a house she had always found hostile. The moment they arrived at Mr. Jackson's house, the tension hit like a wall. The paint on the front door was peeling. A loud TV blasted inside. Jerome opened the door in a tank top and boxers, blinking like he'd just rolled out of bed. Damn, y'all really came, he said, stepping aside. Inside, the air smelled like fried onions and cigarette smoke. Calvin was stretched on the couch, watching sports. Mr. Jackson sat in the corner, reading a newspaper he barely turned. Vanessa kept a polite smile on her face, guiding the kids inside. Marcus trailed behind, carrying 2 bags. Jerome looked them over. Where's the rest of your stuff? We didn't bring much, Marcus replied. Didn't see the point. Mr. Jackson folded his paper. So how long y'all planning to stay? Just a while, Marcus said. We won't be in the way. You better not be, Calvin muttered under his breath. Marcus heard it. Vanessa definitely heard it, but neither of them said a word. Later that night, as Vanessa tucked the kids into makeshift beds on the living room floor, Marcus stepped outside to take a walk and clear his head. He leaned on the hood of the car and looked up at the stars. Back inside that house were people who should have loved him unconditionally. Instead, they were already treating him like a burden. And this was only the beginning. The first night in his father's house was hard. Marcus lay awake on the guest room mattress. Too small for his frame, the springs creaking beneath him with every movement. He stared at the cracked ceiling above, listening to Calvin's loud voice through the thin walls as he argued on the phone with one of his girlfriends. Every so often, Jerome's laughter would echo from down the hall. It was like being 18 again, except this time, he had a wife asleep beside him and 2 children on the floor in the next room. Vanessa had hardly spoken since they arrived. She said good night with a soft kiss but avoided his eyes. He knew what she was thinking. Why did you bring us here? The question sat on his chest like weight. The next morning, Marcus woke early, hoping for peace. He tiptoed to the kitchen to make breakfast for the kids, something simple. Eggs, toast, and fruit. He was setting out plates when Calvin came stumbling in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. You cooking now? He asked with a smirk. Marcus kept his tone calm. Just trying to feed my kids, man. Calvin snorted. Thought y'all would have been gone by now. Ain't your type of place, is it? Marcus didn't respond. He just turned back to the eggs. You know, Calvin continued, grabbing a slice of bread with his bare hands. When I heard you lost everything, I told Jerome. Bet now he gone learn what it's like to be normal. I mean, you've been walking around for years like you too good to remember where you came from. Marcus slowly put down the spatula. I never forgot where I came from, he said quietly. I just worked hard to leave it behind. Calvin laughed as he popped the bread in his mouth. Yeah, well, now you back. By midday, the house was already buzzing with passive-aggressive energy. Jerome complained about the kids leaving toys around. Calvin turned the volume up on the TV, while Vanessa tried to homeschool Maya and Miles at the kitchen table. Mr. Jackson sat silently through it all, eyes flicking from his newspaper to his grandkids. At lunch, Vanessa offered to help cook, only to be told sharply by Jerome, "Ain't nobody asked you to play house here. You a guest." Marcus stepped in immediately. "Watch your mouth." Jerome stood, puffing his chest. "Or what? You ain't got the money to back up your big talk no more." Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at his father, expecting him to say something. Anything, but the old man just sat there sipping water. Vanessa quietly took the kids outside to eat on the porch. That night, Marcus sat on the porch alone. The kids had fallen asleep early, tired from the emotional weight of the day. Vanessa was inside folding clothes they'd brought in laundry bags. She hadn't said more than a sentence to him since the Jerome incident. Mr. Jackson finally came out, lowering himself into the old wooden chair beside his son. "You brought this on yourself, you know," he said without looking at him. Marcus kept his voice even. "Brought what exactly?" "All this tension. All this pride. You got money and stopped acting like family mattered." Marcus turned to face him. "I sent you money every month. Paid off Jerome's car. Helped Calvin get into school twice. What more did you want from me?" His father looked at him for the first time that night. "Respect." Marcus blinked. "You think I don't respect you? You don't come around. You don't call unless it's holidays. You live in that mansion and act like you forgot where we struggled. We struggled because you gambled everything away, Dad." The silence between them snapped. Mr. Jackson stood. "You ain't as clean as you think. We'll see how long your little wife stays when she's really uncomfortable." Marcus rose slowly. "You don't talk about Vanessa. I'll talk about whoever I want. This is my house." "No," Marcus said firmly, stepping forward. "This is a house. My home is wherever my wife and kids are." The older man narrowed his eyes. "You're not as strong as you think. Let's see how long you last without your fortune to protect you." The next day, things only got worse. Calvin accused Maya of taking his phone charger and yelled at her until she cried. Vanessa was livid but held herself back, for Marcus's sake. Jerome brought two loud friends into the house who made jokes about rich folks getting humbled. Mr. Jackson didn't stop them. That night, Vanessa sat Marcus down in their cramped room, her eyes filled with quiet pain. "This is toxic," she said softly. "The kids are hurting. I'm hurting. I know what you're trying to do, but we don't deserve to suffer for your experiment." Marcus lowered his head. "I didn't think it would get this bad this fast." Vanessa reached for his hand. "They never respected you. The money just gave them a reason to pretend." He looked up at her, a knot forming in his throat. "Then maybe I needed to see it for real," he whispered. Maya sat on the porch steps, hugging her knees to her chest. Her favorite book was in her lap, but she hadn't flipped a page in 10 minutes. Beside her, Miles traced circles in the dust with a stick, unusually quiet for a 6-year-old who loved to talk. Inside the house, the sound of yelling echoed again. "You're letting your kids run wild in this house." Jerome snapped. "I told them not to touch your speaker. They were just walking by," Vanessa said calmly, trying not to raise her voice in front of the kids. Jerome waved a hand. "I don't care. This ain't y'all's mansion. You think this is some quiet suburban dreamland? Go live in a hotel or something." Marcus had just walked in from the store. He heard the argument before he even reached the front door. He pushed it open sharply and dropped the grocery bag on the table. "That's enough," he said, his voice low and cold. Jerome turned toward him, still fuming. "Man, control your kids. Nobody told you to come back here." Marcus stepped closer. "Nobody told you to speak to my wife like that." Mr. Jackson emerged from the hallway, rubbing his eyes. "What now?" Vanessa stood still, hands trembling at her sides. "Your son just told me to take your grandkids and go live in a hotel." Mr. Jackson looked between them, then shrugged. "Maybe y'all should. Jerome's got a point. This house too small for all this tension." Vanessa's eyes widened. "You think we're the problem?" "No one said that," he muttered, grabbing a bottle of warm beer from the counter. "But y'all came here with noise and stress, and expect us to live like we rich. We ain't used to that." Marcus laughed bitterly. "You weren't complaining when I paid your mortgage last year. And look what good that did me," Mr. Jackson snapped. You gave money, not presents. You think money replaces respect? Family? Time? Marcus clenched his jaw. I gave because you always asked. Not once did you ask how I was doing. Not once did you say thank you. Calvin walked in halfway through, chewing loudly on a sandwich. What's all this drama again? He muttered. Man, I thought rich people were supposed to be peaceful. Vanessa turned to Marcus, her voice shaking. We have to get our kids out of here. Now. That evening, Vanessa sat on the edge of the small mattress they shared. The children were asleep, exhausted from the tension. Marcus was quiet, head in his hands. You see it now, don't you? She whispered. He nodded slowly. They hate us, she continued, her voice surprisingly calm. Not because we did something wrong, but because you did something right, and they couldn't stand that. Marcus looked up at her, his eyes dark with regret. I wanted to believe there was still something good in them. I wanted to believe they loved me for who I am. They don't, Vanessa said. They love what you gave them. They love being connected to success. But when that disappeared, so did the act. She stood and walked to the window, arms folded tightly. I watched them disrespect me, insult our children, and treat you like dirt, and you still tried to protect their pride. Marcus stood slowly and walked to her. I'm sorry, Vanessa. I didn't realize how deep the resentment ran. I thought, maybe, underneath it all, they still saw me as family. They don't, she said simply. The next day, things came to a head. Vanessa had taken the kids to the nearby park just to get some air. Marcus stayed behind, hoping for one quiet morning. Instead, he walked into the living room to find Jerome and Calvin sitting with two friends, laughing over a card game and smoking indoors. Man, I remember when Marcus used to act like we was friends. Now he act like he a senator or something. I'm just waiting for him to ask to borrow gas money, one friend said with a smirk. Marcus stopped in the doorway, their laughter dying slowly when they saw him. Jerome gave a smug grin. Didn't see you there, boss man. Marcus looked at them, then at his brothers, then turned around and walked out the front door. He sat on the porch steps, elbows resting on his knees, face in his hands. It had gone too far. He had seen what he came to see. The truth had made itself loud and clear. They didn't love him. They used him. That night, Marcus quietly packed a bag. He didn't say a word to his father. He didn't warn Calvin or Jerome. He simply told Vanessa, "Get the kids ready in the morning. We're leaving." Vanessa nodded. "Where are we going?" He met her eyes. "Someplace where respect isn't negotiable." The morning came with a gray sky and heavy air. Rain had fallen overnight, soaking the patchy front lawn and coating the sidewalk in puddles. Inside, the house still smelled like burnt toast and cigarette smoke. Maya clung to her stuffed bear while Miles leaned against Vanessa's leg, sleepy and confused. "Are we really leaving?" Maya asked quietly. Vanessa crouched down and wiped a bit of dry syrup from the corner of her daughter's mouth. "Yes, baby. We're going somewhere better." Marcus loaded the last duffel bag into the trunk of the borrowed sedan, his movements steady but tight. He hadn't said much all morning. His silence spoke louder than words. As they were stepping out the door, Mr. Jackson called from the hallway. "So that's it? You walking out like some movie star?" Marcus turned slowly. "We came here because I thought this family still meant something," he said. "But all I've gotten is disrespect, insults, and silence when it mattered most." Mr. Jackson shrugged. "Ain't nobody told you to come back. You brought yourself." Jerome came into the hallway, shirtless, rubbing his eyes. "Y'all still being dramatic? Man, you acting like we beat your kids or something." Marcus stepped back inside. "You know what?" he said, voice low but firm. "Let's not pretend anymore. You hated me long before I had money. You hated that I left, that I worked hard, and that I didn't need to live off anyone else's scraps." Calvin now appeared from the kitchen with a slice of pizza in his hand. "Here we go again. You always think you're better than everybody else." "I never thought that," Marcus said. "But you did." Vanessa, holding the kids just behind him, finally spoke. "You all talk about family like it's some sacred bond, but all you've done is tear each other apart. And when you saw Marcus fall, or thought he fell, you didn't offer support. You offered judgment." Mr. Jackson rolled his eyes. "Woman, stay in your place." Marcus stepped forward, his entire body tense. "Don't you ever speak to her like that again. You better calm down," his father said, standing taller now. "You ain't in charge here." "No," Marcus replied. "I'm not. And that's the problem. I thought if I came back here, you'd show me love. What I got was proof that love in this house only flows in one direction. Jerome crossed his arms. Oh, cry about it. What? You expect us to kiss your feet? I expected you to care, Marcus said, breathing hard now. But I was wrong. And since we're being honest, let me add something else. He looked directly at his father. You used to say you worked hard for us. You didn't. You gambled, drank, and blamed the world for your losses. And when I started making money, you saw a second chance to live like a man you never became. The air in the room tightened like a stretched cord. You say I forgot where I came from, Marcus continued. But you forgot who you were supposed to be, a father, a protector, a leader. Instead, you raised leeches and called it loyalty. Mr. Jackson's jaw flexed. You done? Marcus nodded. Almost. Just one more thing. He pulled a white envelope from his coat pocket and tossed it onto the coffee table. What's that? Calvin asked. A copy of the deed to this house. Paid off 3 years ago. By me. Jerome stepped closer, confused. Wait, what? Marcus looked at them all. I paid off this house. I kept it quiet, so you wouldn't throw it in each other's faces. But I should have let it burn. Because living under this roof poisoned every good thing I tried to give. The silence was unbearable. Vanessa watched them all with a quiet satisfaction. Maya tugged her mother's sleeve. Can we go now? Yes, Vanessa said, her voice calm. We're done here. 30 minutes later, the car pulled out of the driveway. No one from the house came outside. No goonbis. No apologies. Marcus didn't expect any. The kids fell asleep in the back seat, and Vanessa rested her hand on his as he drove. You okay? She asked gently. He nodded, eyes fixed on the road. I am now. 2 days later, they were settled in a small but cozy Airbnb just outside the city. It wasn't their usual luxury, but it was peaceful, clean, warm, respectful. Vanessa cooked, the kids played, and Marcus sat down with a journal for the first time in years. He wrote one line at the top of the page. They never loved me. They loved what I gave them. Then he turned to a new page and began to write something else. What kind of man do I want to be? Without them. Meanwhile, back at the house, silence had settled in like a fog. Calvin avoided eye contact. Jerome stayed in his room. Mr. Jackson sat in the living room staring at the envelope on the table. None of them said it out loud, but they all knew something had shifted. Something broke that morning, and it wouldn't be fixed with an apology or a phone call. Marcus had finally drawn a line they never thought he would, and the house had never felt emptier. A full week passed since Marcus and his family left that house. In that time, something inside him had settled. For the first time in years, he wasn't surrounded by noise. No demands. No guilt trips. No manipulative phone calls about emergencies. Just silence, honesty, and clarity. Every morning, he woke up early and jogged through the quiet neighborhood of their rented Airbnb. He cooked breakfast with Vanessa. He helped Maya with her math and Miles with his reading. They laughed more. They talked. It was like someone had lifted a curtain, and now they could finally see each other clearly. This feels like home, Vanessa said one evening, sitting by the window with a cup of tea. Marcus nodded. Because it's peaceful. Real. We're not fighting to earn love here. They had no maids. No security guards. No luxury cars. But they had what mattered. And yet, there was still one thing left undone. That Sunday afternoon, Marcus put on a dark blazer, neatly ironed slacks, and a pair of polished shoes. He kissed Vanessa's cheek. You sure you want to do this? She asked. I have to, he said. Not for them. For me. She nodded. Then go, and don't let them rewrite the truth. He drove to his old neighborhood in the same beat-up sedan they'd left in. As he parked outside his father's house, memories came rushing back. His mother sweeping the front steps, his first bicycle stolen off the porch, the smell of fried fish from the kitchen. He stepped out and knocked. Jerome opened the door and froze. You back? Yeah, Marcus said simply. Jerome scratched his head. You want to come in? Marcus didn't answer. He stepped inside like he never left. The house looked exactly the same, dim, stale, and heavy with things unsaid. Calvin was sitting on the couch. Mr. Jackson was in his recliner, TV on mute. Nobody smiled. You here to drop off another envelope? Calvin muttered. No, Marcus said. I'm here to tell the truth. The room went still. What truth? Jerome asked, eyebrows rising. Marcus looked at each of them, taking his time. I never lost anything. They stared. I never got fired. I was never accused of anything. My accounts were never frozen. I didn't lose my house. I didn't lose my company. It was all a test. Jerome laughed first, an awkward, high-pitched sound. Man, stop playing. I'm not playing, Marcus said flatly. I wanted to see what would happen if I had nothing. I wanted to know who still saw me as a brother, a son, a person. What I saw was the truth. Jerome's face darkened. You mean you lied? You faked the whole thing? You brought your kids here to suffer just to run some damn experiment? Calvin stood up. So you made us look like fools? No, Marcus said calmly. You did that all by yourselves. His father was silent for a long time, then finally asked, So what now? You here to rub it in our faces? No, Marcus replied. I'm here to tell you that I'm done. Done, Jerome echoed. I'm done pretending we're family just because we share blood, Marcus said. I gave you all chances. I helped every single one of you. I ignored the disrespect, the blame, the insults. But I won't anymore. You think you better than us? Calvin growled. No, Marcus said. I think I'm finally free of you. Mr. Jackson stood slowly. So what? You just cut us off now. Marcus looked at his father, eyes steady. You cut yourselves off the moment you decided I wasn't worth anything without a checkbook. That evening, Marcus returned home to find Miles and Maya playing in the living room, building towers from a new wooden block set. Vanessa met him at the door. How did it go? She asked. I told them everything, he said, exhaling. And they were shocked, angry, defensive. But I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just said what I needed to say, and I walked away. Vanessa touched his chest gently. I'm proud of you. In the following weeks, life slowly shifted back to normal, but nothing was ever quite the same. Marcus reinstated his company leadership, which he had quietly stepped back from during his test. His executive team had managed just fine, but his presence brought back a sharper energy. Word got around quickly. No, Marcus Jackson hadn't fallen. He'd just gone silent for a while. And now that he was back, people paid attention. His phone buzzed again. Jerome, one new message. Bro, I know you were just trying to teach us a lesson. I get it now. Can we talk? Marcus stared at it for a moment, then muted the thread. Another message popped in. Calvin, didn't expect that, but it's whatever. You still my brother. He muted that too. Then another. Dad, you made your point. Maybe come around sometime. It's been quiet here. Marcus locked the screen and slid the phone onto the table. He walked outside to where Vanessa was trimming roses with Maya, and Miles was playing in a pile of leaves. Vanessa looked up, smiling. Everything okay? Marcus smiled back. It is now. Weeks turned to months. The Jackson family didn't return to the mansion right away. Even after everything was cleared and Marcus could have gone back to his old life, he didn't. Something inside him had shifted permanently. They found a new home instead, smaller, simpler, but full of light. The kind of house where the sun poured through every window and laughter echoed through each room. A place built not just with money, but with peace. Vanessa stood on the front porch one morning, watching the kids race their scooters up and down the driveway. Her curls were pinned up, and her smile was soft as she turned to Marcus. This feels better, she said. Not bigger, not flashier, just better. He stood beside her in a white t-shirt and jeans, a mug of coffee in his hand. It's real. And that's all I want now. Word spread slowly but steadily. Marcus Jackson, the quiet but powerful businessman, had returned, sharper, wiser, more discerning. Those who once had access to him now found his doors less open. Not out of pride, out of peacekeeping. Jerome came by his office once, unannounced. I just want to talk, man, he said. Marcus looked him over. About what? Jerome hesitated. About starting over. Maybe doing better. I know I was out of line back then. Marcus paused, then nodded toward the door. That's good, Jerome. I hope you do better. For yourself. Jerome blinked. You're not giving me another chance? Marcus stood and offered his hand. I just did. Walk away with your dignity, man. Fix your life. But don't look to me for the tools anymore. And with that, he walked Jerome to the door. At home, Maya was building a fairy house out of craft sticks. Miles had taken up drawing. Vanessa had started painting again, a hobby she gave up during the chaos of their early marriage. The walls slowly filled with her quiet art. Soft strokes, bold colors, hidden strength. One afternoon, Marcus called a family meeting in the living room. The kids sat cross-legged on the rug. Vanessa leaned against the arm of the couch. There's something I want to talk about, he began. You both know we left Grandpa's house because things weren't good there. The kids nodded quietly. Well, he continued, you may also be wondering why we haven't gone back to our old house. Was it because people were mean to you, Daddy? Maya asked. Marcus smiled gently. In a way, yes. But it was also because I needed to figure out what kind of man I really wanted to be. And I decided that I didn't want to live somewhere just because it looked good. I wanted to live somewhere that felt good. Miles tilted his head. So this house is because we feel good now. Exactly, Marcus said, reaching over to ruffle his hair. Vanessa spoke next. And it's because we know now who truly loves us for us. Not for money. Not for what we can give. Just for who we are. The children listened. Young, but understanding more than adults often give them credit for. That day, they planted a small lemon tree in the backyard. A symbol of starting over. Maya called it hope. Sometime later, Marcus received a letter from Mr. Jackson. It was handwritten, stiff, messy, and awkward. Marcus, I'm not good with words. You know that. But I guess you were right. Maybe I wasn't much of a father. But I was scared, too. Scared of being left behind. Scared of not matching once you had more than me. Still, that's not your fault. You were always better than what I gave you. I won't ask for anything else. Just, I hope you forgive me one day. There was no return address. Marcus read the letter twice. Then folded it, placed it in a small box labeled Things That Made Me Stronger, and tucked it away. 1 year later, the Jackson family sat at a picnic table in a public park, sharing fruit, sandwiches, and lemonade. Miles ran with a soccer ball. Maya braided her mother's hair. Vanessa looked at Marcus and said, You know, I used to think breaking away from your family meant breaking everything. Marcus took her hand in his. Turns out, he said, it meant building something real for the first time. She leaned into him, peaceful. And in that quiet moment, with no cameras, no applause, no chaos, Marcus Jackson realized he had passed the test. But not the one he gave them. The one he gave himself. He lost the illusion, but found everything that truly mattered.